Welcome back, everybody. Now we're going to get into dynamic ARP inspection. I'm not going to go into detail. I did a whole presentation for you on dynamic ARP inspection. Not a big deal. All right. And then you'll have a lab at the end. You'll see how that works. Pretty simple to do. All right. Something I guess we should be doing in our networks, which nobody is. But it's just another level of security so it can compare. Let's give you a real quick so you can compare, legitimate traffic to illegitimate traffic. That's it, but I won't spoil the surprise. I'll see everybody inside the presentation, and then remember, following the presentation, we have the lab. Welcome to Dynamic ARP Inspection. All right, here we are. Another section, or another lecture. Dynamic ARP Inspection, right? This goes together, I guess, with DHCP snooping, all right? You want to protect, or you want to look at, you want to compare your ARPs, okay, through your reports to make sure that, there's nothing fishy going on, right? That's what this is for, all right? So let's take a look. Let's start taking a look at this. So dynamic ARP inspection, abbreviated called DAI, right? DAI, however you want to call it. It examines incoming ARP messages on untrusted ports, okay? But pretty much towards the end of this, I'll let you know, just to tell you right now, that once you turn on the DHCP snooping, pretty much all, and even DAI itself, dynamic ARP inspection, all end user reports, or all those access ports are considered, for the most part, untrusted anyway. All right, but it examines, all ARP messages coming that way. All right, so it can filter if it believes, because one of the biggest things, and the reason that we do dynamic ARP inspection is for man-in-the-middle attacks. Man-in-the-middle attacks. Now, ARP uses DHCP snooping table. All right, it's not just a regular, it's a show command for that. All right, so you can take a look at the DHCP snooping table. All right, and also, or the bindings, I should say, and then any configured ARP ACLs that you may have. All right, so you can do certain specific ACLs to look at that. I mean, we got to understand how ARP works, and that's what is there. We know that when we first, or we should know, because I've talked about it enough, I think, that for the first time in your network, let's say the network is built and it's all done, right? You've been working there for over a year, whatever. You come in the morning, right? Nobody was there at night. Okay, everybody's turning on their computers. So we're sending ARP requests, okay, to the switches. If you try to get out of your network, it's going to send an ARP request to the routers. So you need to know their MAC address. So you can have your ARP cache filled. The switches will learn the source MAC addresses, all that good stuff, and especially DHCP. So you can go ahead and get your IP address, right? And if you're going across a wide area network like we did, which is retarded, all right, unless they're an ISP, then you would, an ARP will go out there and, you have the helper address to go for you. Because remember, the process of DHCP is just, DORA, all right? That's the abbreviation. But we're going to get into that. So ARP works that way. And ARP needs to know, when you do an ARP, you know your source MAC address, you know your source IP, you know destination. You're looking for the broadcast layer 2. And normally that's all Fs. That's all Fs. All right. But there's something called, which we'll talk about a little bit, gratuitous ARP. If you look at that broadcast or a gratuitous ARP, it's 02. Right? If you're to do a Wireshark or any third-party software they use to analyze your network and take a look at the frames and all that good stuff, excuse me, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Don't worry. It's a 02. Okay, 02, 02, 02, 02. Okay, so, but that needs to be, you need to know that, right? In order to get outside your own network, you need to know your gateway's MAC address. You need to know not only your gateway's MAC address, but you already know your gateway IP address. All right, so they need to know that, and your router needs to know your MAC address as well, okay, and what network you're trying to get to. So all that information is sent on the echo request, echo reply. So that happens. So that's ARP. So we know how ARP works as we talked about it with routing process. We understand that, all right, and switching. So there's something that happens which is called gratuitous ARP. And the title of it is gratuitous ARP is a vector attack because you can use a man-in-the-middle attack. All right, and that's what MITM, because I didn't want to write it all out, so I actually Googled it to look to see what the abbreviation was. So it's MITM, all right? Man in the middle, makes sense. Man in the middle attack. All right, so gratuitous ARP is when a host, okay, now, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I only got 20 minutes. Well, not here, that's right, this is a cool bit. All right, so I can take all the time I want. Awesome. All right, so when a host changes its MAC address, this happens. So, okay, let me understand this. So I'm on the network, I'm working, all right? I already got an IP address, right? I did that ARP, I did that DORA to the DHCP, right? I've already been outside my own segment, so the ARP is done. Everybody knows everybody's MAC address, and you know I have it in my cache. But for whatever reason, my NIC takes a dump, I'm assuming, and I have to change NICs. And then this is the reason why I would change my MAC address. Because that right there just blew my mind. If somebody out there is changing their MAC address in the middle, hey, Laz, yeah? Can you change your MAC address, please? Okay. Just whatever. And it's enabled by default. If you want to disable it, you got to go into the registry of your computer and your operating system and change it. So, but it's there by default. All right. So gratuitous ARP. That's the problem. That's a problem, but it's also a good thing, as you'll see in a second. So hosts will send a gratuitous ARP. They weren't asked for anything. They're just doing it. Listen, I can see you're at a restaurant and you give out a tip. The waiter didn't tell you, can you give me some gratuity? You know, he's not going to say that. All right. There's some restaurants above a certain price that say, hey, gratuity is included. All right. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? That's the difference. But they're telling you. The gratuitous ARP, the host just says, hey, I changed my MAC address. Here you go. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. I'm not going to tell everybody about it yet. All right. But I'll just acknowledge to you that, yeah, okay, I got your MAC address, your new one, all right, cool. But the thing is that hackers will try and use that to sneak in and do a man-in-the-middle attack, okay? So the gratuitous ARP is sent as a broadcast, but as a specific broadcast is that 020202, okay? As a way for the node to announce or update its IP to MAC mapping for the network. So your IP didn't change, it's the same, but your MAC did. That in itself to me sounds suspicious. All right. I don't know who the hell's doing this. I'm be completely honest. I'm like, okay. So I'm just taking it as it is. All right. Gratuitous ARP, that's what it is. And people are doing this, I guess, on a daily basis. I don't know. So, but this is why it's helpful. All right. The gratuitous ARP. All right. They can help detect IP conflicts. Really? Doesn't the DHCP server do that? If you're in a VLAN, let's say we're all on VLAN 1, just make it simple. We're all on VLAN 1, and you put 192.168.1.1, and I put 192.168.1.1. We're all in the same broadcast domain. That's gonna tell you, not gonna happen, man. IP, we're gonna have a conflict, right? Doesn't that happen automatically? I don't what's going on. All right. They assist in updating of other machines' ARP tables. So apparently this is happening constantly. Whether you change your MAC address or not. All right. Remember that the MAC address table, okay, it's 300 seconds or 5 minutes. And I guess after that, it'll do a gratuitous ARP, so everybody can know it again. I don't know, what the hell's going on. And they inform switches and MAC address. Let's read it. They inform switches of the MAC address of the machine on any given switch port so that the switch knows that it should transmit packets sent to that MAC address on that switch port. once, let me see, we talked about this already in switching. Once you send out an ARP, because you're trying to get to a particular IP address, and you said, hey, who's the owner? What's the layer 2 address of this IP address? And you float out of all the other ports, one person replies, hey, that's me. And then on that port, they're going to go ahead and put that source MAC address, and then that won't happen again. You'll still get a broadcast, yeah, but it won't be an ARP broadcast, okay? But apparently, this is just something that's happening, okay? All right then. So we gotta be very careful with that gratuitous ARP. It's okay to give a tip in a restaurant, but not in a network, okay? All right, that's not a good thing. All right, so that's gratuitous ARP there, all right? And these are the helpful things that it can do, all right? Which, that's interesting. So we have something called dynamic ARP inspection, all right? And we'll just use DI or DAY, whatever you want to call it. So what it does, it's using DHCP snooping, because when you turn on DHCP snooping, some ports are trusted, some ports are untrusted. So it will use that. It will use that information to confirm the data, or the correctness of the data that's coming across there. That will also use the DHCP binding table and compare the ARP messages, and it will use the trusted and untrusted ports. So it'll use whatever DHCP snooping is using to allow or not allow the dynamic, I can't say die, I'm sorry. The dynamic ARP inspection will go ahead and do that as well, okay? To make sure that it will allow, things. We'll make comparisons. This is legitimate traffic. It's not legitimate traffic. Or like they say, you can create an ACL for it as well, an ARP ACL, all right? And then you have, I put a note here, which is what I told you earlier, that access ports connected to end devices are often, I love how they write this out, often untrusted. So just some of the times, all right, often untrusted by both DHCP snooping and dynamic ARP inspection. Okay, all right, so that's that. Okay, so that's funny to me how they phrase that. Well, okay, all right, no problem. So that's what dynamic ARP inspection does. And apparently, if you have DHCP snooping on your network, it's because you're concerned that somebody internally in your network is going to run a spurious or fake or rogue DHCP server, whether it's using software or an actual DHCP server, which would be kind of whatever, but okay, on your network. So, you want to do ARP inspection as well, so you can do comparisons. On the trusted, untrusted, whatever the case may be, the binding table, the DHCP snooping binding table. Okay, so it's just interesting. All right, so we got that going on. And then lastly, here's how you configure it. All right, it's a very simple configuration. All right, especially in the packet tracer. All right, it's just IP ARP inspection. You can do it on VLAN or on the interface, whatever the case. So IP ARP inspection VLAN 1. So I didn't create anything. I'm going to use the same lab we used before for DHCP. So IP ARP inspection VLAN 1. Cool. Then I'm going to go to the port that I trusted, because that's where the IP address is coming in from. It's F024, and you say, hey, IP ARP inspection, trust. I'm going to trust you. Okay. Oh, okay. And then if you want to look at things, you can just say show IP ARP inspections and show IP ARP statistics. Oh, you can do that. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. This should be lots of fun. All right. And we're going to do it in the same lab that we did it before with the DHCP. Cool. So that's what dynamic ARP inspection is. It works in conjunction with DHCP snooping. All right. To help us find illegitimate traffic, to make sure that there's no man-in-the-middle attacks going on. Obviously, that's not the only security feature you need to do or analyzing utility that exists that will look at your network and say, hey, something's going on, okay? But this is just one of them. So let's go ahead and let's get into the lab and let's get this done. All righty, so here we are in our lab. Now, this should be very familiar to you because we've done this already. Okay, it's not something new. We have frame relay going on here. We know this. This is our actual DHCP server. Now they changed some things on here. Well, not on this one. On this one, it's still the same thing. Let's look at, where's DHCP? Right here. You see it's on. We have the 172.16. Oh, I'm sorry. The real deal, Bubba. Okay. That's the one, 10.1.54, 10.1.60, 10.1.100. All right. And that's what this PC is getting, 10.1.1.101. Right. What I did change was the spurious, the rogue DHCP server. Okay, which I actually changed it to a 192.168, 192.54. I changed it to a Class C to make it completely different. All right, you see there. So we know for a fact once we're looking at this, let's do this again. Let's do this again. Let's do this again. All right, now I got fast. Oh, there, look, give him 100 this time. All right, but you see you're getting it from this guy. You're not getting it from the other, because the other one's getting it in your Class C. All right, cool. So that means here, I mean, we're going to take a look at what we have so far. We see we're getting an IP address from a DHCP server, which is across a wide area network, which I find hilarious. Unless that's my ISP, that should not be happening. But okay, whatever. All right, show start. We see we have IP DHCP snooping for VLAN 1. We did this before. Okay, so that's on there. All right, and we have port 24 as a trusted port, port. Trusted. Trusted. I said sport, didn't I? Port. All right, so here we go. Let's say IP DHCP. Okay, IP DHCP. Really? Oh, how about show? Show IP DHCP. Not X. Snooping. We want to look at binding. Oh, is there anything else? No, binding. So here we are. Here's the IP address that I got. All right, from that particular server, right? You gotta look at the IP DHCP snooping binding table, right? This is a table. If you just do IP DHCP binding, okay, show IP DHCP, come on, DHCP binding, you're not gonna see anything. You see that? You see nothing. All right. So you got to do IP DHCP snooping binding, and then you'll get to see that information. All right, cool. So one of the first things that we want to go ahead and do is we want to go ahead and turn on the ARP, right? Because we want to be able to, validate and have things, we want to be able to configure that so we're safe. Okay. So let's go to global on fake T. We do IP what? Just question mark it. Hey, look, IP ARP. Okay, IP ARP inspection. Wow. We want to validate addresses? Nah, we just want to do it for a VLAN. Okay, for VLAN what? For VLAN 1. That's the only one we have. All right, cool. But now we got to go inside the interface of the switch that's actually the IP address is coming in from, which is port F024. This guy. All right. So we're going to go in there. And I'm sorry. Am I laughing? I'm not laughing. Interface F0/24. IP. Okay. And then we're going to say ARP. What? Inspection. What? Trust. WR. All right. Cool. So let's do a show start. All right. So we have ARP inspection. It's going to be for the entire VLAN 1 because that's the only VLAN we have. All right. I haven't created any other VLANs. All right. And go down. We have here IP DHCP inspection trust. And you see snooping is trust in that port as well. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do, all right, because, let me show you the commands. Show IP ARP. Okay. Show IP WARP. Inspection, okay, what? All right, we're going to look at the interface, all right? Let's look at the interface F0/24. Hey, it's trusted, all right? Let's look at 20. Well, that's where the spurious DHCP server is at. It's untrusted. Just out of curiosity. It's untrusted. That's where my computer's at, okay? So ARP is looking at all this. Is this real ARP, fake ARP? It didn't do any ARP really. All right. So okay, but apparently there's gratuitous ARP going on either way. Okay. So all right. So that's what? That's the interface. Let's look at statistics. All right. Let's do up arrow organization. Statistics. Can't even say it. See anything else I have to type there? VLAN. Yeah, let's look for VLAN 1, man. Nothing. We can't look at nothing. All right. So we just do nothing. All right. So let's see. Let's say that it's because things happen because it changed the MAC address. Well, I'm not going to change out the freaking MAC address on here. I mean, if I go to the physical, can I pull out I can pull out the NIC card, couldn't I? If I wanted to, I could, couldn't I? But I'm not going to. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another. I'm going to add something else here. I'm going to add another PC. All right. Where are they? Right there. I'm going to add another PC. All right. And remember, it's DHCP enabled. I should be getting an IP address from this guy. All right. So I don't need to do any IP hokey pokey. I'm going to put that on there. Okay. And then I'm just going to plug it in. No, don't do that, lads. Don't do that. Let's pick the port. Let's pick port 2. That's Ethernet. Port 2. Let's bring it up here. All right, so we're in port 2. Let's fast forward through time, fast forward through time. Okay, let's see if we got an IP address. We got an IP address. We got it from this guy. We got it across. We went across the WAN, right, with the IP helper address, and it gave us that IP address. Cool. Let's see see if anything changed here. Let's take a look at show IP ARP inspection VLAN 1. It says VLAN 1 configuration is enabled, operation is inactive. There's no ACLs. The ACP logging, there's none. The ACL logging, there's none. There's no probe. Okay. Well, that's not giving us much information, is it? Show IP ARP. What? Oh, I gotta put inspection. That's right. Inspection. What? Interface. F. Well, it's gonna tell me that it's trusted, isn't it? F0/24. Yeah, see? It's just going to tell me that it's trusted. Okay. So basically, but at least it's looking at it, right? It's looking at all this stuff, making sure that it's legitimate traffic. Is not some guy getting in between us, giving us stuff. Okay, giving us stuff. If you have some sort of network analyzer, you can dive deep into this thing and take a look at the actual MAC address. Now I can tell you right now in the book, it doesn't show you that, because in the commands that it has you do or has you understand that you should know, that's important for you to remember. Okay, it's what we can do. Show IP DHCP snooping. We can do that. All right, and you can see the trusted ports there. Okay, there's only one trusted port, which is port 24, and it's unlimited. We haven't set a limit for that. Okay, we can also do IP DHCP snooping. What? Database. Okay, we can see. Okay, daily expired time, write delay timer 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes. Successful transfers. We got total attempts. Successes, writes. We got that. Okay. See the IP DHCP snooping. There's nothing else though that I can put up arrow. There's only, at least in the packet tracer, there's only two things you can do: binding or database, or just enter, and it gives you information. The other one is IP ARP. Show IP ARP inspection. Enter. You see all that inactive. All right. VLAN 1. Then we have operations. Is inactive. Deny. 0. Okay. There's more. Okay. That's it. Okay. Nothing dropped. Nothing going on. Okay. Nothing's been dropped because it doesn't see anything that's crazy, whatever. All right. And then we can look at certain things. Like, again, we look at VLAN 11 will probably be the same thing as this that you see. Oh, not VLAN 1. It's just going to look at those two things right there. Okay, and if you look at the interfaces, which is interesting, that's the one that tells you it's trusted or untrusted. right? ARP inspection int F0/24. Hey, we trust that one. The rogue DHCP server is on that. We don't trust that one. And we don't trust your PC either, okay? Remember I said it doesn't trust any, but that's it. That's all there is to ARP inspection. But the question you should be asking yourself, all right, obviously you need to know this stuff for the test, okay? You need to know this stuff for the test. I mean, if you have your Cisco books or even your Todd Lamley books, whichever books you have, okay, you want to make sure that, look at, IP DHCP snooping, DHCP VLANs, okay? Those two stupid commands or three commands that, because you can do ER disable recovery calls for ARP inspection as well. So if a port goes down or whatever, because it notices a man in the middle attack, it'll go down, but it can recover itself automatically. Seriously? Okay, whatever. All right. The question you should be asking yourself is the following. Why in the world? I mean, somebody better make a comment on this, okay? And tell me, why am I changing my MAC address in the middle of the friggin', I can see if you have to change NICs, okay? But why are MAC addresses being changed? Because that's what the book wants to have you believe, that, if PC1 changes his MAC address to, you have PC1 is MAC address A, and now PC1 has MAC address 2. Wait a minute, the same PC has another. Why does this happen? Is it a multi-home PC? Is it the NIC did the NIC go bad? You're not giving me a reason. What you're giving me is saying, that it's sending out gratuitous ARP every so often. And the reasons that it does gratuitous ARP is for, IP conflicts, making sure it has the right MAC address, and sending that MAC address to the correct port. What? This already happens, or is this happening, or is this what makes it happen? Because again, you can disable gratuitous ARP, you can avoid this altogether, okay? But I don't know if that's a good idea or not. All right, so careful, people, careful with this. This is a test. Know the commands to turn it on globally and in the interface. Know the show commands so you can take a look at the different things. Know what it does and what it looks at, the DHCP binding tables, okay, things are like that. So DHCP snooping and dynamic ARP inspections, they kind of work, together, all right, to make sure that you are getting legitimate traffic, okay, that you are getting legitimate traffic. You're taking a test, okay, so just keep that in mind. But that's all there's to it. That's all there's to it. You see, we're using the same topology that we use for DHCP, and we actually, put another computer there, and we get an IP address from the real DHCP server. Please stand up. All right, on the left side, okay, and not from the spurious or rogue DHCP server, like it's always been called. Okay, but that's it. That's all ARP inspection is. That's it. That's all it is. Okay. I can tell you the incumbents that work that they don't have none of this crap running. But apparently not in networks or in tests that we take. Is some things you can do. Cool. Remember, keep in mind there's a test. You need to know this for the test. Study it, memorize it, know how to use it. Okay, and you'll be just fine. See you in the next one.